going to do some chatting today. We all know what's going on in the world. If you follow my Instagram account and seen my stories and some of my posts, I am addressing it. Honestly, at my age, over 40, there's nothing new under the sun about what's going on. There's nothing new under the sun about how people feel about this. And so I'll kind of frame this in my personal space as far as being in the Lux community, being a blogger, as it relates to my interracial marriage. That way I can kind of keep on topic. Otherwise I could talk for hours and you guys don't want to listen to that. So we'll start with influencers and the Lux community and things like that. That I did unfollow a lot of people because of some really horrific things that they said and they did in reaction to people's pain. And let's be clear here. I am a news hound. I'm a news junkie. I'm also on Twitter. I also am very much into live feeds of events so that I can see with my own eyes what's going on. And if a perspective was shown to me, or I witnessed a perspective, a hysteria, a violent hysteria over a portion of what was going on, a negative portion, and not what spurred it, not what the protests were about, I could not support you. I know people make money, their engagement, through their follows, their likes, and all of those things. So I couldn't continue to follow that. I just say get help, because some of them are not Anglo people. Some of them are of color. And they may think that they say how it is and that that's cute and stuff like that, but those things were really hurtful. So let's go back to the beginning in case anybody's confused. A man was murdered on TV. We watched it. It was for nearly 9 minutes. It was not the first time. People protested. Just like a few weeks ago, people protested with their AK-47s and stormed government buildings. They were not met with tear gas. They were not met with rubber bullets. Can you imagine? I just lost my light again. I'm just going to keep talking. Can you imagine what would have happened if police treated those protesters the way they treated the people who showed up with masks on and signs to march for their life? A lot of this takes a multi-perspective. It's not just about Black people. People have been in their homes for months. There is a pandemic, which is still here. There are people out of work. There are people who have received $1,200 and that's it, or they are on unemployment. There's looters in suits out there. There's looters in politics out there. There's looters in business out there. And if you could only find the time to speak to opportunists who saw a crowd and saw what they could do, what they could gain from it, then you've missed the entire point. That is hurtful. And it was the same in my personal life, on my Facebook. People I've known for years, they would scream about looting. And I don't know what news sources they were watching, but it was clear to see that a lot of this was organized criminals. There were white supremacists coming in to stoke the flames. And there were people, just opportunists. There's an opportunity to get something. I'm not in their shoes. I have not suffered financially from this pandemic. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have a job and my stimulus ran out and there was an opportunity to get in the streets, and while the cops are busy, then I'm not going to take something and try to flip it for cash. So I'm a person that kind of looks at things like that. It's not just one thing. Protesters were protesting, and that was my focus. My focus also, unfortunately, was turned to the police brutality that I saw. And I'll just use one example to keep it short, but the 75-year-old man in Buffalo, New York. What happened on that video was utterly disgusting. That plus so many other videos was proving the point. And I'm not bashing cops, but I am not letting the few bad apples line slide. I absolutely am not. There's more than a few bad apples. Racism is real. Police brutality is real. And it's not about complying. It never went anywhere. It is who we are. It's how this country was built. Cops were originally slave patrols. There is a problem in this country. There are people who feel that I am an animal, that my children are animals. And you can't educate your way out of it. You can't money your way out of it. That's just how they feel. And to the ones who've sought to understand their own internal biases in the past few weeks, to the ones who showed up to not get influencer photos at these protests, to really march and do the work, I say thank you. To the ones who just want us to shut up and sit down, I say screw you. I would love to just have nothing but first world problems. As you know, I have health problems. I'm raising teenagers. And I would love for that to be all I have to worry about. But it's not. So you take your worries, your daily worries, and then compound it with, I'm afraid to get pulled over for a ticket. I'm afraid to call a cop to help me. If someone were breaking into my house, I wouldn't even want to call the police. Look at Breonna Taylor. Nobody should have been in her house that night. Nobody. She's one of the heroes. She was a first responder. She's an EMT. They weren't even supposed to be at her house, and she's dead. And her boyfriend was arrested for defending his home. Let's flip that back a couple weeks ago. Men armed to the teeth showing up in government buildings with guns, with AK-47s, threatening politicians. Open up so I can get a haircut. My Second Amendment rights. The Second Amendment doesn't seem to apply to black people. Why was Breonna's boyfriend arrested? Why was he put in jail? He was protecting his home. He was allowed to have a firearm. Where was his Second Amendment rights? Where was the NRA to speak for him? So all of these things, on top of a pandemic, unemployment, and I'm not even going to get into the fire stoking, a flag, the anthem. Have you read the entire lyrics for the Star Spangled Banner? I challenge you to go read them all. I served my country. My husband served his country. Our fathers served our country. Our fathers went to Vietnam. I have a son who served our country. I have a long list of people in my family who've been in the military. But my favorite quarterback was questioned about what's going on lately and brings it back to the flag. I don't understand this obsession with patriotic symbolism. The NFL was charging the Department of Defense for these patriotic symbolisms before football games. Did you know that? Check it out. So we have patriotism, hate, misogyny, let's not forget that, greed, and now we have a pandemic, and then we all watched a man being murdered casually with a hand in the pocket. Have you sat still for 8 minutes and 40 some odd seconds? Try it. Just go freeze in your house. Tell your whole family to stop moving for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And I'm not going to ask you to imagine if it's your child, because you don't have to. Because it's not going to be, most likely, your child. It's about so much more. And I'm done trying to teach. There are a lot of good resources out there. If you want to confront your own biases that you may not even realize. And these books, some of them are written by white people for white people, like White Fragility is one of them. Just get the book if you really care. I am married to a white man. We've been together for 20 years. We have children. We consider our children together. We've decided that our kids are black because it's how the world is going to see them and treat them. And he doesn't mind that. We have to tell them that they don't have his privilege. The privilege that he gets when he walks into a room. And he and I talk about these things. I say, what do you feel when you walk into a room? Nothing. I walk into a room. And then I tell him how I feel when I walk into a room. It's a huge difference. So if you're going to be a part of the solution, which you can be, you need to take people to task. Mother, father, sister, cousin. And when I say take them to task, not meekly, be informed. I personally do not break bread with people who support racists, with people who are racist, with people who consider me a good black. My father-in-law is out of our lives because he is supporting someone who supports all the mess. You're not going to be a part of our lives. I can't tell other people to kick people out of their lives, but it's just that simple. Because it's not about Democratic or Republican. Right now, things are about right and wrong. And what's wrong is our justice system and the way black people are treated as consumers, as employees, as tenants, as homeowners, home buyers, how we are treated in healthcare. The statistics are out there. You just have to find the proper and multiple sources. Please don't use us in these times to get hits and likes and stuff like that. If you're sincere, you're sincere. But I noticed a lot of people went black the other day that didn't post anything about the murder. And I see people screaming Blue Lives Matter. There are no blue people. There are no blue lives. Being a cop, being in law enforcement is a choice and a heavy responsibility. And seeing all these cops push this man, this elderly man, onto the ground busting his head because he was giving them their helmet and they all walked by. That's not humanity. That's not humanity. Yes, my channel is lifestyle. It's about good stuff, fun stuff, unboxings. My blog is about shopping. My Instagram is about pictures and pretty things. That's me. That's me. But also on top of me is an additional weight. An additional weight on my shoulders. And I do you think I want to carry it? Do you think Black Lives Matter means we want to be better? No. It means leave us alone, really. It means that. And for those of you of color who have the complexion for the protection, and you can't back us, I'm a black woman, and I'm cool with that. I'm proud of who I am. You can be white and proud, but when that pride is rooted in supremacy, without really realizing how this all went down, and I'm not talking about the school history version, I'm talking about the actual version. I don't have white privilege, but I was a privileged financial kid. So that's where my love for Lux came from. But we still were questioned a lot in neighborhoods and communities that we lived in. My mother would answer the door to her home, cost well over $1 million, professionally designed inside every couple years with her PhD, and would be asked for the woman of the house. Racism is not just the inward. It's perception. It's how you think somebody is. And I'm so glad that my husband gets it, or else we wouldn't be married. He gets it. And there's no room for anybody in my life anymore who doesn't get it. Because like I said, it's not a difference of opinion. If you want to amplify black women, amplify them all the time. Not just now. Not just in Black History Month. And pay them. Pay them for their work. If you know a racist at work, talk to them. Talk to your boss. Don't be a bystander. My God, people are trying to ask us why we are sitting on a park bench and then calling the police. Support what's right. And if you feel racism is right, if you don't, then that's a 365-day-a-year anti-racist posture that you have to take. And if you lose some friends, were these the friends you wanted? So I said I don't teach, but I will recommend one documentary. No, two. And they're on Netflix. And I believe right now they're playing on YouTube. When They See Us, which is about the Central Park 5. And you may see somebody you know in there. And 13th. Both done by the same director, Ava DuVernay. Both documentaries and both mind-blowing. I've watched 13th with my kids and my husband, and we were just gobsmacked. And it had to do with the 13th Amendment. Check out a book. White Fragility is a good start. There are a lot of people, white and black, who write very well about these issues. Get on Twitter and find some of them. Do not lean on your black friends to teach you and educate me. I hate that. I hate that. Educate me. No. We all have computers in our hands. And it is stretched around the world because we're not the only country with this issue. There's anti-blackness everywhere. All people are asking to be seen is as humans, but racism is embedded in our system. There is no reverse racism. I do not hold the reins of power over your employment or your health care or your approval or disapproval for a mortgage or for the interest rates you're given for a car. There is no reverse racism. It is more than the N-word. It's a system. And it was a system built on the backs of my ancestors and perpetuated to this day in every facet, from fashion to makeup to lending to schools to healthcare. We can't go back to business as usual, not even in our little community. Buildings have insurance. These big businesses are gonna be okay. And if you cared more about that than you cared about human lives, I think you might want to work on that. Everybody who made it through to the end, thank you for listening, because I had to get that off my chest. Racism is a choice, and ignorance is a choice. I'll see you in a happier video. Have a nice day.